It is also quite stimulating. It's good for the libido. That's also very important for reproductive health. So maca is actually considered beneficial for preconception, and I know people who've taken it as prescribed. Context is important. A little bit of coffee here and there isn't going to do a lot of harm, but if you weren't having it before, don't add it. If you were having it before, gradually reduce it, and just be conscious of your body's used to what you were doing before, and then it goes through a gradual adaptation and transition.
We have a lot of moms or would-be moms out there who ask us which superfoods are safe to use. And I thought maybe to try to break down the conversation a little bit as far as, are there mixes that you might avoid? Maybe start with caffeine even in pregnancy, how you approach that.
What's very important is context around what you were doing before. So I wouldn't recommend adding in a lot of new ingredients when you're already pregnant. Have a look at what you've already been doing beforehand. So for example, context in caffeine. If you're already consuming a lot of caffeine, or you felt like it was a lot of caffeine and you'd like to reduce it, go gradual to reduce it. So if you are having 4 cups a day, perhaps go down to 2. For pregnancy and breastfeeding, they recommend rather 2 or less standard cups of coffee. It's considered safe to be consistently drinking 2 cups of coffee over pregnancy and breastfeeding. I drink coffee occasionally. Context is important. A little bit of coffee here and there isn't going to do a lot of harm, but if you weren't having it before, don't add it. If you were having it before, gradually reduce it. Just be conscious of your body's used to what you were doing before, and then it goes through a gradual adaptation and transition. Don't change too many things at once, because enough is going to be changing. Your taste sensitivity, your smell. Don't introduce too many new things at once. And if you are going to reduce things, take your time, be gradual with yourself. You don't need to do any big jumps.
Do you think that Power Matcha or Energy Bomb are any better than the caffeine in coffee? Just curious.
I mean, it's a much lower dose, and the context of when you have coffee, it's from the whole bean. And so that in itself is also a whole food, but it's a whole food. When you have the coffee, it's one ingredient. Whereas when you have the matcha and you have the Energy Bomb, there are more than one ingredient. So the Energy Bomb, it has multiple ingredients. So you have the whole food in the context with other whole foods, which changes the rate at which your body breaks it down. But the Power Matcha as well, it has the benefits of those other ingredients. So the other ingredients, your body responds to those differently than if it was a single ingredient, because the body considers it a food. It releases enzymes to gradually break it down, and it changes the ingredient into the most useful forms that the body can use. And then the body determines, how much of this do I want to use and how much do I want to get rid of. If you want to reduce your caffeine intake, transition from, say, multiple cups of coffee a day, go to a matcha or Energy Bomb to transition out of it. And then just have a look if you were able to activate your energy at such a high degree that you're realizing, I don't need the energy kick anymore. You could use them as transitions. So I'm going off coffee. Like I said, it's a different form of caffeine. It's a different complex. It's lower dose. So it would reduce withdrawal symptoms if you were reducing your coffee intake. But I wouldn't recommend going from 4 coffees a day to 2 matchas and 2 Energy Bombs. Slightly, gradually reduce. They're considered safe as long as you're consuming them in food grade amounts. As soon as you're taking more than recommended, that comes out of that scope. So only take as recommended.
So based on what you said, I would assume Brew is sort of in that same category, that it has the other foods. It is a food.
Yeah, exactly. So I would consider that like something you could try. And on top of that, ingredients like within the Brew, you've got ingredients that support your natural processes. They're not overly stimulating or overly suppressing anything. It's just like a nourishing meal. So that at food grade levels, they're considered safe. And in the products, in your superfood products, they've gone through lots and lots and lots of testing to ensure that they are at those food grade levels and they're staying within the scope of that. And there's nothing in there that would be considered a therapeutic level that a doctor or a naturopath would be prescribing. Just take as recommended.
Now let's talk a little bit about both maca and ashwagandha. Are either of those cautions while pregnant, or how might you look at that if you were expecting?
As supplements, yes, caution is recommended, but in the supplemental form, they're manufactured differently. So in supplements containing maca, so the research that I've seen is theoretical concern. Most of the studies where they showed significant hormonal changes are, in animals, not in humans. So in humans, it's considered safe. It is also quite stimulating. It's also, it's good for the libido. That's also very important for reproductive health. So maca is actually considered beneficial for preconception. And I know people who've taken it as prescribed, but as a food, it's considered safe when taken at a food grade level. So it's not manufactured in a way to make any particular substances higher than would be found in nature. A lot of the supplements you find, for example, ashwagandha, there are substances within ashwagandha, so there's phytonutrients that are shown to have a specific effect on the nervous system and to be supportive of certain hormonal adaptations. Some products, to make sure that it has that action, will manufacture ashwagandha in a way to make sure those substances are slightly higher to make it at that therapeutic level, so they can say this is effective for this action. But that's, again, a different manufacturing process, and very strong studies in humans. But the ashwagandha as like the whole root form used in your superfood products, it doesn't have those substances at that high therapeutic level. So it's really not considered a concern as long as you're taking it at that amount that is recommended.